What EV gives you the most range for your money? Well, the Chevy Bolt and Nissan Leaf are both super affordable, but neither of these cars can go all that far. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got the Tesla Model S and the Lucid Air. They have huge range numbers, but can be extremely expensive, out of the reach of many motorists. Right in the sweet spot, however, is the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Properly equipped, this super sleek sedan delivers an EPA-estimated 361 miles of range, all for less than 47 grand, including destination. Of course, the Ioniq 6 is offered with several powertrains and trim levels, but to get that eye-popping range number, you have to nab a base SE model with rear-wheel drive and 18-inch wheels. If you don't, expect around 300 miles or less on a full charge. Slippery aerodynamics play a major role in delivering this car's blockbuster range. I mean, after all, Hyundai calls it an electrified streamliner, and up front we can see this Ioniq 6 has a very clean and elegantly styled front end. The hood flows down quite low. Underneath here we do have a storage cubby about half a cubic foot, which of course is enough to hold the charging cable and not much else. But aside from that, we've got standard LED headlamps and daytime running lights. These are mirrored at the rear of the car by standard LED tail lights as well. And then down below on the bumper here, we can see active grille shutters, so you get improved aerodynamics when you need it, and those will open when the vehicle does, of course, need additional cooling. But moving along the side here, despite these being the small and cheap wheels at 18 inches, I absolutely love the design of these rims. Very clean, simple, and elegant. I wouldn't mind having these on much higher end versions of the Ioniq 6. Now, while we're at the side of the car here, just like other eGMP-based vehicles, the Ioniq 6 here has retractable door handles for a very sleek look and likely slightly better aerodynamics. So a very nice design. However, be warned that if it's wet, if it's been raining, sometimes your hand will tend to slip off the end of the handle here, so just be aware of that. But pulling out and taking a look at the profile of this car, we can see that the roof very gracefully tapers toward the rear end of the Ioniq 6, and that, of course, is mirrored by the belt line, which I don't actually like this line on the car because it's very droopy, especially at the back here. It's kind of flaccid. It almost looks like the car was left out in the sun and partially melted. I kind of wish they would make that line a bit sturdier, a bit straighter. But anyway, at least it does flow into the back of this sedan, which is the polar opposite of the front because, as you can see, it is super busy. It has not only one, but two spoilers. I mean, if one's good enough, why not have two, right? Two spoilers, a lot going on here. A fairly small backlight, which I will warn you does restrict outward visibility from the driver's seat, so be aware of that. But overall, these various tweaks and tricks result in a coefficient of drag of just 0.22, which really means the Ioniq 6 here cheats the wind like few other vehicles. That also, of course, helps improve efficiency. Expect 153 miles per gallon equivalent in the city, 127 highway, and 140 mpge combined. Very impressive numbers. And of course, while we're back here, let's pop the trunk and take a quick look there. This will motor open all on its own, revealing a space that clocks in at about 11.2 cubic feet, which is a very good number. And of course, you can expand this storage area by pulling these levers here, which will fold the split rear backrest down, again increasing the versatility of this electrified streamliner. Not surprisingly, the powertrain is another aspect of this vehicle that helps improve the range. This Ioniq 6 has a single rear-mounted electric motor that's good for 225 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Those are solid, but of course not crazy numbers. And the electric motor still provides very good performance. And I estimate this car should be able to go from 0 to 60 probably somewhere in the mid 6-second range, which is perfectly fine for everyday normal use. And of course, if you do want more giddy up, you can get an all-wheel drive Ioniq 6, which will have a lot more horsepower horsepower and torque, though the range will be significantly less. Storing energy is a 77.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that again provides up to 361 miles of range. But if you don't need that much, you can get an SE version of the Ioniq 6 with the standard battery pack, which will cost you about $4,000 less, though it will only get you roughly 240 miles on a full charge, so be aware of that. As for DC fast charging, this car should top out at about 235 kilowatts, which is absolutely fantastic. And of course, as in other eGMP-based vehicles, that's quick enough to get you from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes. Out and about, this Hyundai steering is light and lively, which fits the nature of the vehicle quite well. Though I will say the steering wheel is a little bit unusual because the opening between the spokes is actually smaller at the top than it is at the bottom, and you'd kind of expect that to be flipped so that it's easier to see the instrument cluster, but for whatever reason, that is not the case. Now, when it comes to regenerative braking, you can adjust that via these paddles right here on the wheel. I can click the right one just like that, take it to 0, which is basically no regenerative braking at all. The car just rolls right along on its own. Or I can click the left paddle, which cranks it up step by step, ultimately engaging I-pedal mode, which is Hyundai's name for a one-pedal driving mode, which is actually my preference. It allows the car to gently roll itself right to a stop. But if you don't like that, just click the opposite paddle and fine-tune it to wherever you like. Just like other modern Hyundai vehicles, the Ioniq 6 has some excellent advanced driver aids. It comes standard with adaptive cruise control that features stop-and-go capability. We have front and rear parking sensors, which are always nice to have. There's blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and then of course lane centering, which you can engage right here from the push of a button on the steering wheel, which I think is fantastic, and it does work extremely well. Like other eGMP-based vehicles, including the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6, this interior is very well done. Now, there's nothing at all fancy about this base SE model. In fact, the plastics are fairly workaday, and we do have cloth-covered seats. It's not ritzy, but it does function extremely well. These seats are comfortable, and everything is built properly and assembled tightly. Passengers in the back are well cared for. There's a nice flat floor and the seats are comfortable. Plus there's plenty of legroom, though I will warn you, headroom is a little bit tight because of that sloping roofline, so be aware if you're a little bit taller. When it comes to technology, we have a familiar pair of 12.3-inch displays up on the dashboard, a crisp and clear digital instrument cluster, as well as a touchscreen more toward the center of the vehicle. And I've got to say, the infotainment system that runs on here is very snappy and, of course, intuitive. Frankly, it's one of the best systems you can get in the market today, and it does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so if you want to use a smartphone mirroring system, you have that as an option. However, neither one of those will connect to the car wirelessly, so make sure you bring a cable. Overall, there is a lot to like about this Hyundai's interior, though there are two things that I don't really care for, and one of them is down here on the center console. They've mounted the window switches between the front seats, much like you'd have in an old E46 BMW 3 Series or like a Pontiac G8. And this is fine, you will get used to it, but with muscle memory, I'm forever reaching here on the door panel to try and raise or lower a window, so it's not my preference, but I get why they mounted them there. And then the other thing I don't really like, on the dashboard here, we've got a pair of these sort of little wings that pop out toward the passenger compartment, and I understand that in other markets this car is available with digital side view mirrors, and this is where the screens would mount that would show you a view along the side of the vehicle, but we can't have that in the US, so instead we just get these sort of plastic fillers. I don't know why they included them. They're there, they look kind of funny, and I don't know, I think it'd be probably better if they just left them off. But anyway, let's recap the strengths and weaknesses of the Hyundai Ioniq 6 and then talk pricing. Like other eGMP-based vehicles, the Ioniq 6 is a superb EV. Seriously, these are among the best electric offerings available today. This streamlined four-door provides excellent DC fast charging performance. The driver aids are top-notch. This car has a high-quality and comfortable interior. The range is excellent. And of course, the pricing is more than fair. As for downsides, Rearward visibility could certainly be improved. I personally don't care for those centrally mounted window switches, and that saggy exterior beltline does not look good to my eye. A relatively entry-level SE model, our tester here checks out for $46,825, including $1,195 in destination fees and just one option, $210 for carpeted floor mats. And overall, I think that's a more than fair price for everything this sleek sedan offers. As it sits, this isn't the fanciest EV available today, nor is it the quickest or the most versatile, but the Ioniq 6 is an incredible value because of all the range it offers. For more EGMP goodness, click right over here to check out my full review of the Genesis GV60. This all-electric hatchback is very closely related to the Ioniq 6, though it offers loads of luxury and a whole lot more.